It was the dragons we bowed to. And now the dragons are dead. There sits the only king I mean to bend my knee to. The King of the North!
I mean, this cycle never seems to end, does it? I'll go ahead and say it. If Winds of Winter was out, maybe George doesn't have to answer questions about Winds of Winter, and that would end a lot of this, right? I'm trying to focus on my excitement about House of the Dragon, and I'll keep saying this. I think that's going to be pretty good. Anyway, George and Ryan Condal sat down with Idris Elba and his wife Sabrina Elba here recently on their podcast Coupledom, and I'm sure you've heard about this. It's very telling on how George R.R. Martin has begun to see things. To be blunt, I think here for a while now, George has come off a bit tone deaf. I defend the artist whenever I can. Unfortunately, this isn't one of those moments. I want the book, you want the book, I'm sure he wants us to have the book. However, we have no book and it's been over a decade. Yes, George, it's late, and I know you're busy, but when your audience hears this, I don't think it calms down any of the outrage or impatience. On the other hand, it does continue my confidence in Ryan Condal.
Who cares about the fans the most?
I think I do at this moment.
Do you?
I think that has to be me, because I feel like George already has his fans, and the fans of the book are numerous and strong. It's our job, Miguel and my job, to create a fitting successor show that keeps them happy.
That is a lot of pressure, actually.
Yeah, I talked earlier about the relationship in comic fandom and science fiction fandom, and I love the fans, although I do think Twitter and the internet and social media has brought out a viciousness that I never saw in the old days.
Oh, yeah.
And the love and hate are very close, and particularly with
hot passion,
something like comic books or any established franchises. And I think you probably actually can speak to this the controversy about James Bond that is going on for you, and also before that, the Dark Tower. I suspect Stephen King fans were vocal about that, and I get, Winds of Winter, the sixth book, is late, and I can get 100 good comments, but there's still going to be a few fans out there who are going to remind me of it, on my blog or whatever, and I say, Happy Thanksgiving, and they say, never mind, Happy Thanksgiving, where's the book?
Look, if you're going on a rant to George R.R. Martin over him saying Happy Thanksgiving, whatever. I mean, that's just not the majority of criticisms, and I think he knows that. He kind of says as much there in the interview. But if he's focusing on that instead of the legitimate grievances that audiences have or readers have, I mean, it's tough to defend George right now on the book being late. And it might serve him best to not continue with these publicity opportunities, which is kind of a tough situation. I mean, how does he turn them down? But to be honest, I'd have much rather have heard from Miguel Sapochnik there with Ryan Condal, and hopefully get a better dive into their production on House of the Dragon. I imagine we'll get more with the both of them here soon. Now, if you guys are interested in this, I would like to do a little bit more of a deep dive on Ryan Condal and Miguel Sapochnik and share with you all a lot more about their background and how this all really came to be with them getting the reins for House of the Dragon, and dive a bit more into their resumes as well as their understanding for the source material. But one thing I will take away from the podcast is that there's a lot of confidence from Ryan Condal to say that he cares more about the fans right now. I think that's pretty awesome, because that's the head guy for House of the Dragon, and it makes me feel like that series is going to be in pretty good hands. Now, this is just a short video, but for all of the George R.R. Martin critics out there that have given up on Winds of Winter ever being completed, I totally get it, and it's getting very, very challenging to defend that book not being here yet. Again, there's a big part of me that has zero confidence in that book ever arriving, or even getting any type of completion to A Song of Ice and Fire outside of Game of Thrones, the TV series. And when George makes some of the comments he does in interviews or on his website, I don't know if he's trolling his fan base or if he's just completely tone deaf. He's basically said that he's annoyed by his fans being annoyed with his lack of progress toward the finish of A Song of Ice and Fire. Kind of an ironic circle there. But since I can't detach myself from hanging on to almost anything George has to say, I will leave you with this. He had the 2022 Santa Fe Literary Festival here recently, and George did take the stage and dropped an interesting story about how D&D pitched Game of Thrones to TV executives. And hopefully more from this festival is leaked out and more accessible to everyone, and maybe we get some additional insight from George himself.
So I was out of television for a number of years. So David Benioff and Dan Weiss, who would eventually be the showrunners, were the guys who taking around and taking it to HBO and to other places to try to get someone to buy them and option them and make them. And their pitch was The Sopranos in Middle-earth.
Oh, God.
You have to be able to, high concept things, you have to be able to say it in a sentence or two, you know? He's the Pope. She's a chimp.